Through your worship, we're live.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Clerk, and good evening, everybody. We'll call this meeting to order. And before I go to 1.1 of the land acknowledgement, it's just come to my attention that a long-standing member and very prominent member in our community has passed away. Mr. Tom Hutchison, who was one of the founding members of Hutchison Janak appraisal firms, who his son Mike now runs that firm, and his daughter Elizabeth is a resident of Wasaga Beach as well, has passed away. And so our deepest condolences to the Hutchison family. Tom was a great guy, a lover of beagles and dogs, and riding his motorcycle for sure. So he will be deeply missed by his family and the rest of this community. So we'll now go to the land acknowledgement, and I'll ask Councillor DeLeo to read that for us. Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, good evening, everyone. The town of Wasaga Beach acknowledges that it is located upon the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people of the Three Fires Confederacy. We also acknowledge that the people of the Wyandot Nation also inhabited these lands. We acknowledge that these lands were sovereign nations existing before the arrival of settlers. We respect the spiritual interconnection among these nations to the land and to the water. We also acknowledge that waterways near us have a long history predating European arrival. Since time immemorial, waterways were the lifeblood of the indigenous people by trade and hunting routes. We are dedicated to inclusivity of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people in our future stewardship of the land and the longest freshwater beach in the world. In the spirit of reconciliation, we welcome the opportunity of learning to be sustainable caretakers of the land and waterways for all future generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Megwitch, Councillor. And moving on to item number 3 is the approval of the agenda and the recommended motion that the contents of the agenda for January 26, 2025 be approved as circulated. Any questions or comments on this? Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor White, seconded by Councillor Ego. All in favor? That motion carries unanimously. On to item number 4, public meetings, in 4.1 and 4.2. The public planning meeting under the Planning Act Official Plan Amendment, Wasaga Beach Secondary Plan, WWSP, and comments from members of the public. This is a public meeting regarding the draft Town of Wasaga Beach West Wasaga Secondary Plan, affecting all lands within the west end of the Town of Wasaga Beach. Roughly bordered by the shoreline of the Nottawasaga Bay, the town's boundary along Highway 26, Fairground Road, Lions Court, and 62nd Street South. This public meeting is an opportunity for members of the public to learn more about the draft official plan amendment for the Wasaga Beach West Wasaga Secondary Plan. For Council, this public meeting is not to engage in debate regarding the merits of the draft official plan amendment for the West Wasaga Secondary Plan, nor is it intended to be a question and answer session. It simply is to make Council aware of the public's comments and to ask any clarifying questions. No decisions will be made at this public meeting. Please be advised that you must make a written request if you wish to receive notice of any decision of Council regarding the draft official plan amendment for the West Wasaga Secondary Plan. To make a written request for notice at the meeting, please contact our Deputy Clerk, Barbara. Presentations tonight by staff. We'll start with Matt Ellis, our planning staff. He will now make a brief presentation and will provide further details with respect to the draft official plan amendment for the West Wasaga Secondary Plan. Council also recognizes the lead planning consultant for the project, Matt Alexander. Patrice Lead of WSP is in attending via Zoom to answer any questions. So Matt, we'll turn this over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Smith, and members of council. Good evening, and good evening to anybody tuning in to our public meeting tonight via the town's live stream. The purpose of tonight's public meeting is obviously the West Wasaga Secondary Plan. I'll start off with an overview of why we're here. The West Wasaga Secondary Plan, what it is, why we need the West Wasaga Secondary Plan, how we engaged with community stakeholders and how we continue to engage, what we have heard from the engagement activities that have been conducted, the first draft of the secondary plan, and then I'll summarize our remarks, and then I'll mention next steps. So why we're here. Public meeting is required under the Planning Act prior to the adoption of an official plan amendment. The purpose of tonight's public meeting, as indicated by the mayor, is to provide an opportunity for the public for sharing written comments and making oral submissions to council. The secondary plan is part of a broader official plan. So the official plan is the broad community document that outlines the town's long-term vision for growth and improvement over a period of around 30 years. The official plan identifies where, when, and how different types of growth and redevelopment will occur. And the secondary plan is it's a policy for a certain unique part of the municipality where some special policies need to be implemented to recognize whatever uniquenesses a certain area of town has. So in this case, that unique area is the west end of town, and the West Wasaga secondary plan will implement the policies of the official plan, but on a, quote, West Wasaga scale. Sorry about that. Okay, so the West Wasaga secondary plan includes one of 6 strategic growth areas in our new official plan that is also in the process of being completed. What strategic growth areas are a collection of nodes and corridors around key intersections of town where growth has clustered in the past or is anticipated to cluster in the future. And corridors are areas of key roads in town that link the nodes. So conceptually, these nodes and corridors are represented in the graph at the bottom here. So the draft official plan identifies 5 established nodes or that we call strategic growth areas, being the Sunrise District, downtown Wasaga Beach, Old Mosley Village, Schoonertown, Springhurst Junction, and the emerging strategic growth area is the one that we call the Sunset District. And that's not the entire secondary plan area, but it is a part of it, and I'll get into that later. So the West Wasaga secondary plan, it does include that emerging strategic growth area known as the Sunset District, and that area is being established through this secondary plan process. So some of the reasons why we need the West Wasaga secondary plan is there's certainly no secret that we have a significant amount of growth forecasted in this area in the coming decades. Some of the applications, the active applications that we have in the area are outlined in magenta in the map shown as part of this slide, and the dark purple area the area that's outlined in dark purple is the town's West End Public Works Depot and Water Tower. The same needs or the same reasons for doing the official plan are also the same as the reasons for doing the West Wasaga secondary plan, but on a West Wasaga basis. Transportation, from a transportation perspective, we have a fragmented road network in this area of town, and we hope to improve that through this West Wasaga secondary plan process, as shown in this snippet photo of the town's road network in the West End. We have a lot of streets that are dead ends that don't connect with each other, and so the West Wasaga secondary plan aims to establish linkages to improve things a little bit in that regard. We also have a need for more and safer cycling infrastructure, and the degree of walkability for the West Wasaga area is quite limited. And two examples of that are the pictures, the Google Street View photos of Lions Court and the section of Mosley Street between the two roundabouts shown on this slide. We also have limited shopping opportunities and in the west end of town, and we don't have any parks in the west end of town. Obviously, in this photo, I'm not going to certainly outline all the commercial areas of town, because that's not really possible or practical to do. But this map here, it shows the main areas, main commercial areas, and municipal parkland is shown in green. So commercial areas in purple, and parks and parkland is shown in green. The West Wasaga secondary plan area is shown in the red circle there. Obviously, you can see it doesn't have any parks and has very limited commercial areas to complete day-to-day needs such as shopping and whatnot. We also recognize that our council has established a term of council priorities that we summarize as pursuing complete neighborhoods and streets, improving community parks and recreation, diversify our economy and create jobs, improve the public realm, and pursue green initiatives and respond to climate change. The West Wasaga secondary plan implements each of these priorities, but obviously on a West Wasaga basis. The process for the West Wasaga secondary plan started with background research and completion of topic-specific discussion papers in 2022 and 2023. These consisted of a market analysis of the area completed by Urban Metrics, a report on existing housing conditions by SHS Consulting, a baseline transportation conditions report completed by WSP, and Matt Alexander with WSP is on the call here tonight, and a background summary report which summarizes all those previous studies mentioned also by WSP. Community engagement largely consisted of a charrette led by a Tool Design Group between June 10th and 13th of last year. The first phase of that charrette was what we called the discovery phase, and this consisted of a visioning session that included attendees at 20 tables with 5 to 8 persons at each table, and they were asked 4 questions. The first question was, what do you like to see preserved in the west end of town? What do you dislike and wish to see changed? What is missing that you would like to see created? And what are the values that you feel should shape the streets in this area of town? The words and ideas expressed in response to each of these questions were organized into what we call these word clouds, and these are shown in each of the 4 photos on this slide. The words in the larger font are those words and ideas that were expressed most often. For example, you'll see Beechwood. Beechwood Road was one of the things that people like to see changed. And words that appear in smaller font are things that were still expressed, but were expressed less often. And then tables were randomly selected to present their answers to the rest of the room. Day 2 of the charrette on June 11th consisted of interviews with key stakeholders, such as landowners and their agents, such as planning consultants, the County of Simcoe, school boards, and our municipal partners, being the Town of Collingwood and Township of Clearview. At this phase, Tool Design became familiar with the West End, learned about development proposals in the area, and gained an appreciation of residents' values, concerns, and hopes for the area. And I have some pictures of that process here on this slide. The input gathered from those 2 days on June 10th and 11th resulted in a vision statement and guiding principles for the west end of town. So the vision statement as shown here is that West Wasaga Beach is a green, quiet place with an attractive small town look and neighborly feel, with a connected grid of slow and walkable streets with comfortable access to parks, schools, the beach, nature, shopping, trails, public spaces, and other amenities. And guiding principles that were formulated are based on well-connected streets with options for mobility, facilitating a complete community and places for people. The above vision statement and guiding principles were used to inform the 3rd day of the charrette, which is summarized here. That started the design and discussion phase of the charrette on June 12th. So here, Tool Design applied their expertise and input received from stakeholders during the earlier phase to develop basic ideas and concepts for the future design of the West Wasaga secondary plan area, and summarized with town staff. And that led to day 4, which was the final, which was the wrap-up of the charrette. And that consisted of a presentation in the evening of June 13th. And of course, all of this was held at the Recplex. And of course, we have a screenshot of the public meeting. Tool Design's presentation. After the charrette was a continuation of the documentation phase. In this phase, Tool Design formalized their recommendations for the secondary plan area reflective of community input received at the charrette, and they documented this in a memo dated July 12th, 2024, and this was posted on the West Wasaga Secondary Plan page of the Engage Wasaga website. And all background material related to the secondary plan is posted on the West Wasaga website. And then once that memo was released, we sent that memo to our friends at WSP Group, our lead consultants, to formulate a draft land use concept and draft official plan amendment which is the draft policies for the West Wasaga Secondary Plan. So the first draft of the West Wasaga Secondary Plan was released on December 18th. In the policies of the West Wasaga Secondary Plan are to be read together with the policies of the draft official plan. So as indicated here, the draft policies of the official plan are added to the policies of the West Wasaga Secondary Plan. As indicated by the larger picture for the West Wasaga Secondary Plan area, where there are conflict in the policies of the two, while we certainly do try our best to avoid conflict, if conflict does exist, the policies of the West Wasaga Secondary Plan prevail. The development framework for the West Wasaga Secondary Plan area consists of land use designations that provide general direction to the town zoning bylaw regarding permitted uses within certain areas of the secondary plan. These land use designations include business and commerce, mixed use, neighborhood, greenlands, parks and open space, and greenlands environmental protection. They also include overlays that provide direction on additional matters to be considered when implementing the secondary plan where the overlay applies. And we have two overlays, the community corridor overlay and the Sunset District Strategic Growth Area. So as indicated here, as part of Schedule A for the draft secondary plan, the land use designations are outlined in gold, and the two overlays are outlined in purple. The business and commerce designation, shown in blue on Schedule A, is based on the objective of providing for and maintaining a supply of developable lands for employment uses in the town, encouraging a variety of employment land uses that support a diversified and healthy economy, enhancing local employment opportunities, and permitting a wide range of employment and employment-related uses in appropriate locations. The mixed-use designation, shown in red on Schedule A, is predominantly located in relation to the roundabouts along key roads within the secondary plan area. This shall provide a more diversified mix of land uses that are permitted. The neighborhood designation is shown in, I guess you would say this is vanilla on Schedule A. The neighborhood designation is intended to provide housing for residents along community facilities, businesses, and existing tourism, commercial, and accommodation uses. Complete community objectives are to be implemented in neighborhoods to support people of all ages and abilities with transportation options and alternatives available to access other parts of the town and provide housing for residents alongside community facilities, businesses, and existing tourism, commercial, and accommodation uses. Greenlands, our Greenland system consists of two designations, Greenland's Environmental Protection and Greenland's Parks and Open Space. So the dark green represented by, plus the pale green and equals, comprises the overall Greenlands system. We also have a potential future park that is identified with some water frontage at the end of Shore Lane as indicated in the photo in the map on this slide. The community corridor overlay is shown along Beechwood Road, Lakeshore Road, Mosley Street, and Lions Court. And some policies of this overlay are that commercial uses are the preferred uses for the ground floor. New retail uses are required to be designed as walkable, transit supportive, integrated into adjacent communities, and feature pedestrian and cycling networks with high quality urban design. The Sunset District Strategic Growth Area, as I mentioned earlier, is outlined in the broken blue line on Schedule A. And this is to accommodate a greater degree of intensified growth versus the neighborhood area in the secondary plan, for example. The draft Wasaga secondary plan recognizes that a transportation network that offers mobility choices for residents and visitors is essential for the future growth of this area of town and creating inclusive communities for people of all ages and abilities. The street network should be walkable, bikeable, transit-friendly, safe, comfortable, and attractive while accommodating vehicular traffic. Examples of this are the cross-section renderings completed by Tool Design for Beechwood Road and a portion of Mosley Street within the secondary plan area, and shown on the left of the slide. The Ministry of Transportation, we recognize, certainly has a large role in the West Wasaga secondary plan. Beechwood Road, Lions Court, Mosley Street between the existing roundabouts, and Nottawasaga Side Road 33/34 between Highway 26 to the town boundary with the Township of Clearview remains to be in MTO jurisdiction. A highway protection area, which is represented by the red hatched area on Schedule A, is established along Highway 26. And this is established by the MTO. And it prohibits new land uses within 25 meters of the highway. The town will work with the MTO to increase access to Highway 26, promote connectivity of Highway 26 to existing and proposed multimodal transportation infrastructure. And I can mention that we have We have indicated to the MTO that the town requests Beechwood Road and Lions Court to be downloaded from the MTO to the town. The town will also encourage the MTO to reduce ministry setbacks along Beechwood Road and Highway 26 to unlock development proposals. One component of the transportation network for the West Wasaga secondary plan consists of a frontage street, or some may also refer to it as a service road, that is roughly runs parallel to the existing Highway 26. The objectives of the frontage street, of course, with proposed roundabout intersections, are to provide a parallel street to Beechwood Road, enable a better trail and bike network, provide alternative access throughout West Wasaga Beach, and mitigate the traffic impacts of existing and future developments. So as shown here, the roundabouts intersections, just the regular roundabout intersections, are outlined in pink, and we have these hammered, or these dumbbell, we call them dumbbell roundabout intersections, outlined in, I guess you would say, is Celeste on the map on this slide, and is shown on the rendering to the bottom there. Active transportation consists of designated bike lanes, off-road trails, on-road trails, and of course the existing shoreline trail. And as part of the policies, the active transportation policies for the West Wasaga secondary plan is the town will work with the county and the MTO to increase access, as well as create a safe, barrier-free bicycle and pedestrian pathway system that links up to the existing Collingwood Clearview Rail Trail. So in summary, the community engagement consisted of a charrette held between June 10th and 13th. The first draft was released on December 18th, 2024, and this is reflective of input received from the community during this charrette. We are now reviewing the first draft through the statutory public meeting. I recognize the version of this presentation that is published to the website states that we're reviewing the second draft. That was actually taken from the presentation that we delivered for the draft official plan. So the draft official plan is in the second draft. The draft West Wasaga secondary plan is in the first draft right now. The first draft is the draft we're reviewing tonight. And we're reviewing that through this statutory public meeting. And the final secondary plan for adoption by town council is anticipated in late winter 2025. So conceptually, we're at the point represented by the arrow in the graphic provided on this slide. And as I mentioned, everything related to the West Wasaga secondary plan, such as supporting materials, are available on the Engage Wasaga website, and we have a link to that provided on this slide. And if you wish to receive additional information, of course, you can contact myself or manager of planning, Mark Bryan, at the email addresses indicated here. And that's our presentation. So thank you, and we are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Matt. And We'll now turn for comments to from members of the public regarding the draft official plan amendment for the West Wasaga secondary plan. And for those members of the public that are attending here virtually, we'd ask that you now please turn on your cameras, but keep your microphones muted until you are asked at your turn to speak. And I'll now look to our deputy clerk to announce each speaker. And when you're announced, you can then turn your microphone on. And please remember when you're finished speaking to turn your microphones off. Madam Deputy Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. The first one we have listed is Jackie Wooton.
Welcome, Jackie.
If you can.
Good afternoon or good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Jackie Wooton, not Wooton, and I do live in the west end of Wasaga Beach, and I am going to be directly affected in my neighborhood by these proposed plans. My main concern, really, is the access from Highway 26 to create a roundabout onto Lions Court. That is going to increase noise pollution extremely. I have an issue with the safety concerns of the speed limits that are not even controlled now, that may be going down Lions Court and possibly onto Ramblewood, well, Ramblewood specifically, because it's going to be a secondary road. All of those houses along there have to back out of their driveways to get onto the road. I also work at the school. I see speeders like there's no tomorrow going down that road. And if we open this exit up, it's going to be the first exit off of 26 for all the tourists. It's going to increase noise pollution, speed, like there's no tomorrow. There's a real safety concern. I also know that while living here over the past 4 years, the noise is pretty bad on a long weekend from the highway. And if we get the tourists up here, which we want, I'm not trying to discourage tourists, but I don't want them running through my neighborhood. I didn't move here for that. I moved here to live in a nice, quiet neighborhood. So that is my main concern. My second concern is because my house is adjacent to Ramblewood, it's kind of right at the edge of the trail that starts at Ramblewood. It is zoned for commercial, which I understand, but if commercial does go in there, how will the town protect the existing neighborhood? Is there going to be berms built? Are they going to have low density lights? If a Costco is going in, which we all pretty much know is, what are the concerns about the trucks backing up at night and first thing in the morning? This is, we live here. We don't want to be living next to noise and pollution and light pollution. So those are my concerns. They're pretty much the concerns of my neighborhood. I can't really speak for people that live along Ramblewood because I don't think a lot of them are even know what's going on here. So thank you for letting me speak. Those are my concerns and comments.
Thank you, Jackie, and thanks for coming forward to voice those concerns, and they'll be taken down for the record. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, our next speaker.
Thank you, Your Worship. David Wiglow.
Welcome, David. David, are you?
David, you just have to turn on your mic, sir. David?
David, we can see you, we just can't hear you.
There you go, sir.
I'm not David Weglow, obviously. I think my name is shown wrong there.
And sorry, your name, sir,
Can you
is?
see me?
So David, just state your name and address for the record then, so the deputy clerk gets that down properly.
David Snell,
Okay, thank you.
65 Robert Street, South.
Thank you, David. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. What I have seen, and I've been to most of the events surrounding this, the plan, excuse me. What I'm specifically concerned about is the frontage street. When it gets to the area of Robert Street, Maryland, and George, there's an acoustic wall there, and as you may well know, there is a big plan for the drainage to be solved with the Sunray residential development. And it looks like the frontage street impinges upon that it'll perhaps slow down and disrupt the development of the drainage plan. One of the items in the letter from the people who did the memorandum was to put a moratorium on development on West Wasaga for a year in order to get time to acquire that land and put in the frontage street. But I don't see how the plans for the drainage and the concerns we have over the massive flooding that's indicated in the area are being incorporated with the West Wasaga redevelopment or secondary plan itself. They seem like they're separate entities, and I'd like to get some clarification if the MTO right-of-way would be the main venue of the route rather than going up into private lands and having to acquire additional land. That's pretty much it.
Right, thank you, David. Matt, or our guests, does anyone want to attempt to answer that question at this point?
Thank you, Mayor Smith. To answer the question from Mr. Snell regarding the proposed service road or the frontage street, that's only a concept right now. So, I mean, we recognize that certainly things could change between now and the final design that is built, and this does involve certainly approval from the MTO. So there's certainly a component of this that does require approval from the MTO. So I stress that the concept that is being presented here may not actually be the final frontage road that is built at the end of the day. That's pretty much really what I have to say about that.
So then I guess to be clear, it's a wait and see. It's a concept at this point within the plan. It'll depend on MTO as well as planning as we move forward with the West Secondary Plan in time. Does that make sense?
Correct.
All right. Does that help you, David?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to get on record that those issues need to be looked at pretty carefully because it will impact us in a very severe way, and I hate to see that whole drainage issue put off for any greater time, running greater risks of actual flooding. Even the 5 and 10 year events are quite damaging, according to even the studies I've seen in which you published within this plan. So yes, thank you for the time.
Thank you, David. Madam Clerk, next speaker, please.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I have Bruce Broadbent.
Thank you.
Good evening, Bruce.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Matt Ellis for a comprehensive summary there. Appreciated that. Have a couple of questions. I also, the first one related to the parallel road to Beechwood Road and to the Highway 26. I was glad to see that because that was the first recommendation, I think, of the tool design group. And the question of MTO jurisdiction and funding is a concern because how do we get the attention? How does council get the attention of the MTO, or how do we as citizens, residents, also help in this process? Is there some way that we can be more involved? Because without MTO assistance, or if they're not willing to put up the funding, where do we go? Matt, do you have any comments?
Before you go to your next question, Bruce, I'm just going to turn to our CAO, Andrew Neal, to try and give you a better understanding of that. Andrew?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and through you, Mr. Mayor, to Bruce. Excellent question, and it's not easy getting the attention of MTO, but I think we have successfully done that. So myself, General Manager Lalonde, and a few other staff members will actually be going down to Toronto on Monday, and we have a meeting with the the parliamentary assistant to Minister Sakaria, where we will be discussing these exact issues. So we have already submitted a letter to the Premier, to the Minister, and we're hoping to get action fairly quickly. So they are listening to us, and we're hopeful that we can share some good news with you in short order.
Okay, that's.
So just to add to that, Bruce, that meeting on Monday with key staff and parliamentary staff and the assistant minister is a meeting that is carried on from the meetings that we had last year at AMO with the different ministries as well. So we have been working on this for some time with the MTO, and I know the town staff through 3 councils now that I'm aware of have also been working with the MTO to bring some positive change to fruition. And so to your point, it's not easy. It does take a lot of time, but we've been working on that for quite some time, and we're hoping for some positive outcomes.
Okay, thank you. Second point would be, do we have the infrastructure for this development in the West End? There's talk of up to 50,000 residents here by the year 2050. And I wonder, does the town have the infrastructure? Do we have the money for that? That's a large expense. And does it include flood control? Because I live on Bayswater Drive, and we see a lot of water going towards the lake after a spring thaw down the ditches. And if we have more concrete above us on the south side of Beechwood Road, we can expect even more water to be coming this direction. So that is one of my infrastructure concerns. And also the Greenland environmental protection land is very little on the map. I was hoping to see more of the forested area and the wetland area that helps us with this issue of water rushing towards the lake, of the flood control required for this West End. Matt, do you want to comment on that?
Actually, I'm going to, I'll let Matt comment on that, and then we'll also have the CAO touch on that for you as well. Bruce?
Okay.
Matt?
Thank you, Mayor Smith. I see our CAO has his hand up, so I'll defer to Andrew to answer first, and then maybe I can fill in with whatever.
All right, Andrew?
Matt's putting me back in the hot seat. Happy to do so. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So again, Bruce, you're asking excellent questions this evening. So the short answer is yes, we are planning for a community of 50,000 by 2051. That's our planning horizon. So all of our water, wastewater assumptions are assuming that will be our population by that date, and we plan our capital investments to align so that we can deliver on that population. Obviously, not all of that population is going in the West End. It will be spread around the community, but there will be a significant amount of population growth in the West End. We have already estimated what those numbers could look like. Approximately a third of our growth could go in the West End. So we are planning our infrastructure for that. There will be some investments required, such as a new water tower. That is already in our 10-year capital plan, and that's part of the plan that's in front of you today. Flooding, we understand the issue well. The drainage area that Mr. Snell pointed out previously is critical to the West End, so we are pushing hard on that. We've been working closely with the NVCA, with all of our consulting team, environmental assessment, et cetera. So that is a very important piece of infrastructure that we will also be discussing with MTO on Monday. If you think of the West End area that's impacted by the flooding as a bit of a bathtub, one of the issues that was created by Highway 26 was it channelized a lot of the water and it's directing it through one culvert. And that's contributing. It's not the only contributor, but it's contributing to a lot of the flooding that we're seeing. And we need, think about pulling out the stopper in your bathtub to let the water out. We need to do that along Beechwood Road. There's an area that is inhibiting the water from getting across to the lake. So that's one of the issues that we're looking to work with the province on, and we're seeking some provincial funding to help rectify that situation that should ease the whole flooding issue on the entire West End. So we're actively working on all of these issues. They're not simple issues to solve, but we are pushing hard.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Anything further, Bruce?
Oh, that was helpful. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And again, excellent question. So thank you very much. All right, Madam Deputy Clerk, next speaker, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Bahar Tarzi?
Good evening, Bahar. The floor is
Hi,
yours.
yes, I cannot, I don't know, I'm not authorized to turn on my, my video. I think that I'm locked by the clerk. I mean, so please apologize. Sorry, I just,
I can assure you that you're not locked by the clerk, but that's okay. You go ahead anyway.
no, I just, when I want to turn it on, say meeting alert, you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. Yes.
we've seen others
Now
with that.
Now I can do
Any-
that. Yes.
There we go. Okay. My apologies. I guess the clerk can do that. Welcome.
Hi, hello, Mayor Smith. It's such a pleasure. I really actually attend this meeting to say hello and then tell that really, as a director of Persian community of Simcoe County, we understand and then we see what you're doing. We see the change since you became the mayor, and we appreciate it. We appreciate all these changes. We can feel the change, and then you understand your job is too hard, because as we see that there are the residents that of course they don't like the change, and then there are the youth generation that they're looking for the change, that there are the investors that they're looking for the change, because we believe that Wasaga has a great potential to grow. I mean, so for example, I believe the potential of the Wasaga Beach is much better than Niagara or other cities that we see that it has already been a long time. Wasaga Beach has not changed at all, and then just it became like a retirement city. So, but we see that, for example, the people are now moving there, they're living there, they cannot find a job there. There is no job, there is no, because if we have a shopping mall, as you mentioned, that you have already considered under the investment, if you are bringing the highways, if you are, so for example, get the funding for having the hotel complex or entertainment complexes, and something so that the people either they come for the entertainment or they come for some I don't know, so they can find a job there. If we have a good malls or shops there, shopping malls there, if we have a good entertainment complex there, people they would come, and then we can find job there, and then as our children, our sisters and brothers, they can find the life there. So we believe that that's the way for the growth.
Thank you very much, Bahar. Do you have any questions or just wanted to make comments?
Yeah, so I want to know that if there is any, because I have already been in the pre-budget consultations in Barrie with the Ministry of Finance. So the thing is that I've seen the mayors there, they were asking for the budgets for like making some, for the improvement for the city. So I was thinking that if there is any ask to the government, or we can ask, or any support from us for getting the budget for like making the entertainment complex. Have you considered such these things to such a these change for Wasaga Beach or not?
So yes, as you heard earlier, we meet at different times with different ministries. I can tell you that we are working closely currently with the Premier's office directly, and also with the Ministry of Tourism, Infrastructure Ontario, and the MECP, etc. And we are working on many different fronts with respect to funding and assistance in how we move our great community forward. And so we are feeling very positive. We went down and did a presentation at Queen's Park about 6 weeks ago. That was very positive as well. And we had many different ministers and ministry staff there for that to promote Wasaga Beach. And so it has been very positive. And we have had now several other meetings with ministry staff and the Premier's office with respect to Wasaga Beach. And we are hopeful that some good news will be coming our way in the near future that we can share with the public on many different fronts. Unfortunately, we can't share anything today because we don't have anything concrete from any ministries as to what and how and when, but we are feeling confident that in the first half of this year we will have some good news to come forward. Having said that, we are always going to be, as your council, plugging hard forward to make sure that we are doing all we can to improve the town of Wasaga Beach for our citizens first and our visitors second. I believe this council are big believers that if we build a community that our citizens love and want to be in, that anyone visiting it will love it and want to be in it as well. And Wasaga Beach has been very successful at that for many years. It's why we're now 25,000 plus people. Now, I think probably one of the largest communities in the county, and we continue to grow. And the mandate of the province, of course, and the federal government is to grow. So it's out of our hands. So we need to make sure, our job is to make sure that as we grow in a positive and sustainable manner, and we're fixed on doing that. And we've got a great staff here to help us along with that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please, Madam Deputy Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Corey Chisholm.
Good evening, Corey.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, and the floor is yours, sir.
Perfect. Thank you. Good evening to members of council, town staff, and members of the public in attendance. My name is Corey Chisholm. I'm a planning consultant with MHBC Planning in Barrie, and I'm here before you this evening to provide some brief comments for two of my clients, both of whom have land holdings within the West Wasaga secondary plan area. So before I start, I'd like to thank town staff and their team for all their hard work to date, as well as the detailed presentation at the start of this evening. So the first client I have brief comments tonight is CVD Group. And they own actually 3 different development sites within the West Wasaga secondary plan area. I will say CVD is generally supportive of the proposed secondary plan. We will provide written comments to town staff with some minor comments and clarification questions that I won't go over in detail this evening. For context, they do have an active application for a large residential development at Beechwood and Fairgrounds Road. That was identified in one of the maps Mr. Ellis showed earlier in his presentation. They also have properties at both the southwest and southeast corners of Maryland Avenue and Beechwood Road, where they would like to proceed with commercial development on both of those parcels. The parcel at the southwest corner specifically is comprised of 3 smaller properties. Together they make a square right at the southwest corner of that intersection. The larger property right at the corner is designated business and commerce, while the 2 smaller properties on either side are designated neighborhood. And our client's request is to have the 2 smaller properties to be changed from neighborhood to business and commerce so that they can be merged together and allow for a larger and more efficient commercial development at that site. And we believe this would assist the town in achieving what appears to be the vision for a business and commerce node at that intersection, as we noted that all 4 corners of that intersection do have that business and commerce designation on them. So just wanted to advise council that request is being made by our client through this process. The second client that I have some brief comments for is DAS Development Corporation. And DAS owns the property around the casino between Moseley and Lions Court. They also are generally supportive of the proposed secondary plan. Their site is one of the sites that was identified as mixed use, or that red that was on one of the maps shown earlier. We will also provide brief written comments to town staff with some minor comments and clarifications related to their land holding. DAS does have an active site plan approval for the next phase of their mixed-use commercial and residential development adjacent to the existing casino. We continue to work with town staff through that planning approval process. One key change we noted for the DAS property within the secondary plan is the identification of a proposed new roundabout intersection on Moseley in between the existing roundabouts at Highway 26 and Lions Court. And we just note that our client does support this in the longer term. However, we do suspect this will take some time to fully implement, given existing MTO requirements and restrictions which were discussed earlier. And we do just want to ensure that it in turn does not prevent their existing development proposal from moving forward in the shorter term. So we'll also follow up with some written comments related to that land holding. That concludes my comments for this evening. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Corey, and we look forward to receiving those questions and comments. Madam Deputy Clerk, next speaker, please.
Thank you very much. Bob and Helen Belanger.
Bob and Helen Belanger, no relation to Councillor Belanger?
No. No.
Then you're off the hook. All right, welcome. The floor is yours.
Yeah. I wanted to deal with that first, that I have many relatives, and one that moved to the beach, but Councillor Belanger is not one of them, to my knowledge. Thank you. We submitted an email to Deputy Clerk Kane with 6 items, and 3 of them were somewhat technical for the consultants. So we want to speak to the other 3 effectively tonight. With respect to a couple of the the slides that Planner Ellis had on the screen, I don't know if we want to go back to those, but either the mixed-use development or the neighborhood development slide, there's an inconsistency that actually affects our property between the boundary of the planning area and the shading for the neighborhood, whatever you call it. The neighborhood.
Yeah. They're pulling it up. There. That was it. There you go.
Well,
It shows.
that works. It's not detailed, but if you look down 71st Street, the boundary of the WSP planning area effectively follows 71st Street, or probably more correctly, the drainage ditch that parallels 71st Street. To the east of that, there is existing property that lies outside the boundary of the planning boundary that is shaded as neighborhood. Our question is this meant to be included as part of the WWSP, or is it excluded and it was just an error in shading the maps?
So I'm just going to hold you there for a second. Do we have another map that shows that other shading for council and the rest of the members of the public to see?
Mr. Mayor, if I could point out, the key map that was distributed appeared to be correct in our opinion.
Well, we don't know. That's our question.
Well, no, it appeared to be correct.
But this is what happens when husband and wife come on together. I don't know, Matt, if do we have another slide that shows specifically what we're talking about here? I think it's important for council and members of the public to see that if we do.
Thank you, Your Worship. They're just conferring and seeing if we have an additional map to show.
All right, great. So if you want to go on to your next point then, and then we'll come back to this one once they pull that up.
Sure. Thank you. In the proposed draft, there's a mention in the principles and goals of gentle density and low-rise development. And then there's some technical points we make with respect to definitions of those. However, our overall point is although the goals and objectives mentions gentle density and low-rise development, throughout the document, medium and high density is the wording that's used throughout it. Effectively, the intent is with the development of the properties in the area, particularly the larger properties and the mixed-use developments, is the intent for the development to include only medium and high densities.
Thank you. I'll just turn on my camera here. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Belanger. Through the mayor, first question as to the boundaries for the Wasaga secondary plan and the strategic growth area. The on the east side of 71st Street would be in neither the West Wasaga secondary plan area or the strategic growth area. It would be outside of the secondary plan area, but it is indicated on the map as neighborhood, and it will be neighborhood in the draft official plan, just not neighborhood within the secondary plan. And of course, Matt Alexander with WSP can chime in with any clarifications he may think is warranted. And your second question regarding, I think it was regarding definitions with various densities for development.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not definitions, it's the intent of the development, because the definitions presented in the plan draft deal with building development, which isn't mentioned in the plan. The only mention in the plan is medium and high density. So our question really is for the development, is it to include only medium and high density?
Okay.
Do you anticipate in the plan low-density housing?
I can speak to that, Matt.
Okay, I'll let Matt Alexander chime in here.
Okay. Good afternoon, good evening. So the plan does speak to neighborhoods envisioned as accommodating residential uses, including opportunities for medium and high density uses. So there's a recognition that for the most part, the neighborhoods that are currently single detached homes or semi-detached homes are likely to remain that way over the life of the plan for the most part. But the plan does speak to providing opportunities for medium and higher density uses in appropriate locations, and it specifically talks about corridors and adjacent to mixed use areas. So the idea is that if you've got these commercial areas that are going to benefit from more population, and we're expecting more population to come to the town, then we want to have appropriate places for that kind of new development to take place, and it would be most appropriate next to the commercial areas where where those folks can easily walk, down the street a little bit to get to those commercial areas and visit those businesses. And the plan talks about providing a mix of housing types, tenures, and sizes, including those low-rise single-detached homes. And so I know there are some of the developments that are in process right now are still, I think, majority single-detached, lower-density homes. And so we expect that to continue. But we wanted to make sure that the plan includes some acknowledgement that medium and higher density residential uses are needed in order to accommodate the increases in population that are expected over the life of the plan. So it's not all new development is expected to be medium and high density, and the areas that are already in existence and are low density are expected to mainly remain the way that they are.
So
Hope that helps.
Yeah, and so in terms of future development proposals, the preference is for medium and high density.
Well, where it's located along corridors and adjacent to mixed use and commercial areas. So the plan does not say that all those neighborhood areas are going to be redeveloped for mid-rises or high-rise development or anything like that. The neighborhood designation is intended to remain more or less the way that it is, with some pockets along corridors and close to commercial areas that may permit medium density and higher density development.
Okay.
Thank you for that. I just wanted to go back to Planner Ellis, if we could. So in the final draft, the Schedule A and other schedules will be corrected not to shade existing properties outside of the boundary.
Well, I think we had a look at that map that was up, and you said, I think what you said, Bob, was that to the east of 71st Street was shaded. And I think it was in yellow, if I remember correctly, which was just the standard color used for an existing neighborhood. And east of 71st Street, so if you are driving from Moseley to the water, the east being on the right, that is an existing neighborhood that does not fall within the West End secondary plan. Only the west side of 71st Street does.
Yes, I appreciate that. A long time ago, we had an issue with shading in terms of property we had and what was happening at the beach. So the shading, rather than having the aerial photograph, may be confusing. So my preference would be is in the future, if the drawings could be corrected, to maintain the shading for the neighborhood in this WWSP within the boundaries of the plan and not extend beyond the boundaries of the plan.
I can speak to
pretty
that.
certain I understand what you're saying there. So you're saying don't have any color there, no matter whether it's included in the plan or not.
And it's, yeah.
Okay. And I can understand how that would can make sense. So I think that's probably something we can look at without any issue. I'm seeing Matt Alexander is shaking his head there. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our final point is a bit of an ask, and that has to do with the bridge that crosses over Shore Lane onto Cedar Grove Parkway. Are you picturing it?
Yep, I am.
Yeah. So I'm sure you're aware, it's actually a somewhat similar comment to the woman who was concerned about Ramblewood, and realizing that east-west transportation in the beach is a huge headache. So what certainly has happened since COVID is Shore Lane has definitely become a promenade. Its use in terms of bicycle and pedestrian use has it certainly intensified, and what we would expect with the development that's going on would be even more prominent. Our ask would be that the bridge be converted to non-vehicular use, so pedestrian and bicycle use only, and then connecting that directly with the Shore Lane Trail. So as a somewhat of a safety measure, somewhat as a traffic mitigation measure, just that would also help preserve the character of the area east of the Wasaga plan. So on your official plan, it would preserve the character of the existing neighborhood. So, we just feel that that is consistent with the intent to enhance bicycle and pedestrian traffic, and not to, especially as some of the other comments, that we can easily foresee with the park down further. Shore Lane is just going to become a big thoroughfare.
All right. Anything further?
Just one comment, somewhat more technical when someone gets down to dealing with the details. The existing bridge was rebuilt in the mid-'80s, I think. It's at best good for 1.5 vehicles, maybe 2 small cars. If traffic were to expand substantially on there, it would likely have to be widened. And I don't know, but I would suspect with current planning documents for flood drainage over the ditch, the bridge would likely have to be raised as well. And we're content with the work that has been done after the flood of 2007 or so, and the Jersey barriers along the ditch on 71st Street, and that to contain the water, and also the work that the town does every year to make sure that there's no ice buildup at the end of the ditch. But part of our concern is, besides keeping Shore Lane as a local road within the definitions of the official plan for a local road, our concern would be an added redevelopment would involve changes to the bridge and the area around it that effectively would entice more vehicular movement.
Right. I see that staff are taking that note as well. Anything further?
No, I think No, thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and we appreciate the opportunity to submit our comments both in person and in writing. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Bob and Helen, for your comments and your questions, and we'll take all that into consideration as well. Thank you. Madam Deputy Clerk, next speaker, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next speaker is Heather, and I believe it's Szynski.
Yes, that's correct.
And
Thank
just for the public, before you start, Heather, just for the public, Heather has had surgery recently and cannot turn her, or doesn't wish to turn her camera on, so that's why it will not be on. But I can tell you that I absolutely recognize Heather's voice quite well, and I'll vouch for it being Heather. Heather, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. Your Worship, members of council, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I think most of you in council know where I am. I'm on Beechwood Road near 75th Street. And I have a lot of development going on around my property. Behind me, the Public Works Department will be putting in their depot and the water tower, the stormwater management pond, and the drainage channel. Next to me, Sunray Development will be putting in their development, and across the street from me, Tony, I think it's called Beechwood Development, will be putting in there. So I have a lot of development going on. My main concern, and I spoke to Matt about this today, is my property is zoned commercial. It's always been commercial. It has an R1 designation as well, but it got changed to neighborhood. in the secondary plan. And I'm not happy about that. It reduces my property value significantly. I noticed that the motel down the road kept their designation as commercial, and I'm just wondering why I'm the only one that got changed, especially when you're being asked to take current residential properties and turning them into commercial when you're taking mine away. So I'll send a letter about that. I don't really, didn't really want to talk about it publicly, but I do want to give you a heads up about that. Overall, I think it's a great plan. I think we really need this out here. There's a lot of development going on, so it kind of conflicts with your quiet, walkable neighborhood. So just a heads up on that. You might want to think about it. I too have concerns about the third roundabout going in on the Mosley Street extension, I think it's referred to. I don't mind roundabouts. I think they're efficient. I think, they're faster. However, I have seen, especially in the summer when we have a lot of traffic, some people don't know how to use them, and they're dangerous. And there's a lot of accidents on them. I've seen people literally stop in the middle of these roundabouts, and it's scary to be behind them. And I also can empathize with Shore Lane because I know a lot of seniors who are intimidated by them will go down Shore Lane instead of going around the roundabouts. So that's just something to think about. Putting a third one in there, it might not be the best option. The other thing I'd like to say, and you know me, Mayor, I'm probably never going to let up about drainage, having lived through 10 years of litigation with the MTO after my property was destroyed by the new highway. I am concerned about drainage in the area because there's a tremendous amount of development going on. And, you're just going to have a lot of pavement, a lot of surface, and I'm really worried about that. So we'll see where it goes. I've been assured again and again that it's all underhand. I hope it will be. Overall, I just think it's a good plan. I would have liked to have seen more things geared towards seniors where they don't have to be taking elevators or walk-ups or things like that, more, main floor living. But I understand that, people want to make money or developers want to make money. But I would have liked to have seen something like that a bit more. I don't think there's really anything else that I want to comment on, other than, I think that we really need to be careful that we're not overdeveloping too quickly, I think is what I want to say. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Heather. And I'll note you have every right to be concerned about drainage, and we are working on that. You please be rest assured. And your first question with respect to your property and it changing its designation, I think that is something that staff are aware of, obviously, and we'll try and get something back to you as to why and what, if anything, can be done about that. But thank you very much for being here and contributing tonight, and I hope you are feeling better soon.
Thank you.
All right. Madam Deputy Clerk, any other speakers tonight?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. There are no other speakers.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Madam Deputy Clerk. And I'll now look to members of council for any clarifying questions that you may have. Members of council?
Actually, sorry, through Your Worship, for those that are in attendance that have already spoken, if you can now turn your cameras off so members of council can speak. Thank you.
And please mute your microphones as well. Thank you. All right, questions or comments from council? Oh, Councillor Belanger, you didn't let me down. Joe, go ahead.
Yes, through the mayor, obviously we've been involved from day one on all of this planning, and to the last Heather's comments about being careful of developing too quickly. That's the exact reason why we have the secondary plan and why we had the charrette, so that we could try to coordinate all of this development to a much better result for our community. But I guess the one aspect that I was a little concerned with is when we talked about the service road and the conflict with the drainage plan, and that maybe that service road can't extend to the extent of what we originally had anticipated in the secondary plan, and whether or not there are sort of plan Bs being formulated so that although the service road may not be uniform through that entire parallel to 26, but maybe it can be as close as we possibly can. I just think when we have two projects where there's a conflict that maybe the two can't exist together, we need to clarify that sooner than later.
Thank you, Councillor. CEO McNeil.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Smith. Through you to Councillor Belanger. I absolutely understand the comment, and Mr. Snell made the same comment. Please look at the secondary plan, and in fact, official plans. These are notional connections that we're trying to make. So the idea is that we need some parallel road network to Beechwood Road to take some of the pressure off of Beechwood. Will it be exactly how it's drawn in the secondary plan? It may not, but that's okay. Lines can shift on a map. We're just trying to make that connection. I'm quite confident working with Sunray and the adjacent developments that we can find that sweet spot where we can achieve the drainage connections, still achieve a connection that's parallel to Beechwood, and reach all of the intended results. So that's what staff are working on, and I'm quite confident we'll make that happen.
Thank you, Andrew. Any other questions or comments from members of council? All right, seeing none, I'll just mention, thank everyone for attending tonight and for your questions and comments, and be rest assured that staff have taken those down to look at and get back to you on any clarifying questions. I think the most important thing to note here tonight is that this is the first time, and I cannot remember in my lifetime in Wasaga Beach when the west end of Wasaga Beach was actually looked at and any attention's been paid to it. And hence the reason for this west end secondary plan. And, I'm happy to say that this council understands that everyone in Wasaga Beach, no matter where you live, is just as important as the next. And the west end of town has been an area that has been neglected for many, many years, in my opinion. And it's time that we look at that and start to make the correct decisions moving forward as to how that develops, because there's no doubt that over time, development is going to be there, and probably not in the too distant future, for certain. So thank you again, everyone, for coming. And at this point, we will close this public meeting, and we'll move on to the rest of the council meeting, which is item number 5 on our agenda, bylaws. That the bylaw 2025. I'm sorry?
Your Worship, I was just going to start removing members of the audience. I just thought I'd let you know that. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. So we can carry on?
Sorry.
Okay. All right, so recommended motion bylaw under bylaws is that bylaw 2025-04 be received and be deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Any questions or comments on this bylaw? Councillor White, no questions? Oh, you were going to move it. All right, so moved by Councillor White and seconded by Councillor DeLeo. All in favor? That motion carries unanimously. And that completes this evening's meeting, and this meeting is adjourned. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good evening.